Welcome to part 5, that elixir called love, from the master Ramtha. Men are fickle. When they live in their first seal, they can never be truthful. The first seal, the lion's den. When they live from their first seal, they can never be beautiful. If they live in their fourth seal, they are honored by the stamp of God. It is this that you want and nothing else. You should no longer be less than what you have naturally always been. And this speaks to all of the men in the audience as well who feel the same way. You should never feel that you need to leave that which is termed a higher order to play the game of a lower order. You don't need to do that. If you are not living your life for what society thinks about you, then it is time that you dispense with the fallacies of your life and start living a truism. Start living righteously. Who cares what the world thinks? Who cares who cares who you are with? Who cares if you are alone? Who cares what the men in your circle say? If you are on the path, that is all that matters to your God. Who cares what say they? And perhaps then that is your challenge, and indeed that is your mastery. I honor the women tonight because forever they have been herded like cattle into harems. They have been bought and sold. They have been taken into marriage only to be betrayed. The men who gave them their honor they would be true to them always lied, and it was understood that they could lie. It was understood that they could lie, the men. But the women were never allowed to be anything other than their word. I want my women in this audience who smoke pipes with me to understand they are liberated, and they are liberated not in a sexual liberation, but in their God liberation. That they have lived 10.5 million years of life. Who haven't you been? Why haven't you been? What haven't you been in 10.5 million years? If you haven't been better than you think your dreams are, you have been uncreative in your past 10.5 million years. Greatness, real greatness, that epic of memory. Who in this audience do you think is going to be remembered 2,000 years from tonight? Do you think the most beautiful woman in this audience is going to be remembered 2,000 years from now? They won't. Do you think the ugliest man in this audience is going to be remembered 2,000 years from now? How about the most beautiful man in this audience? Do you think he is going to be remembered 2,000 years from now? Sorry, don't register. What is remembered? An entity who lives their truth, be it male or female, and females rarely. It is time that you become torches in the new millennium. It is true. I tell you, your God in you is not prejudiced as gender is prejudiced. Your God chose you for a reason. You bring to the table of evolution opportunity, not sexuality. Remember that. Your God chose this body for opportunity and not sexuality. And if you do not create opportunity, master it, and are willing to own it as wisdom, then you will only go down in the graveyards of the West or the East as something that was remembered and smells badly. Do you understand? Is sex a wrong thing? So now we gathered together and we began to see how it is no wonder why there are more women who vacillate to the truth, because it is closer to them. It is what they really are. And whenever women can really apply the message without going down and take it up, are the ones that go home very easily. So, my beautiful women, is sexuality a wrong thing? No, it is not. But it becomes a disgrace to your honor as a god when you abuse it for the sake of survival. Then it dishonors you. And you should never keep company with that which dishonors you. Ever, ever. You are born nearer to God. From nearer to God, you should go upward with it. And yes, it is a very powerful test, especially when you are young or when you are about to lose that which is termed the blush of your maidenhood. Then you are panicked, because what will the world think of you as that which is termed wrinkles and sags, and all of that starts in on your body? What will they think of you? But you have to ask yourself, who are you pursuing? Are you pursuing the youth of ignorance? Are you pursuing the wisdom of eternity? Young people don't know any better. Do you really want to give up your life for the sake of an inexperienced and ignorant person? A wise man or a wise woman would never do that. And do you want to panic that you are losing your youth? Now there is reason to panic because you have lived by your body's emotion for so long.
The Julian Cannonball Adderley Quintet there. Their album Live in Paris, April 23rd, 1966. The two tracks we heard were, first up, Fiddler on the Roof. It's a medley of songs from the musical Fiddler on the Roof. And then after that, Money in the Pocket. And the Cannonball Adderley Quintet on that album was Cannonball Adderley on the alto sax, Matt Adderley on the cornet, Joe Zawinul on the piano, Gilbert Rovere on the bass, and Roy McCurdy on the drums. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back after this.
WHRB Harvard Radio is supported by both listeners and sponsors. If you would like to make a contribution to WHRB and help us continue to bring you the greatest selection of music, news, and sports, visit whrb.org/support. If you or your business would like to advertise on WHRB's live air or website, reach out to our sales director at sales@whrb.org. We, the students behind WHRB, are unyieldingly dedicated to bringing our audiences the best programming on the airwaves, and we couldn't do it without you.
So, up next on the Jazz Spectrum, I've got Yusuf Lateef, his album, The Sounds of Yusuf. Hope you enjoy it.
The Sounds of Yusuf. Joseph. Yeah. What will happen when you look in the mirror and it is no longer beautiful when it looks back at you? What are you going to do? But who are you being beautiful for? Yourself or what the world thinks? If you live for what the world thinks, you are already dead. You will never hear anything else I have to say to you. But if you look at your beautiful self and cultivate all of the wisdom that you have learned, and if you can peel the onion, peel it until you find the core. Why did I do this? I did it for this. Why did I do that? I did it for that. And why did I do this? I did it for that. And if you can find the core of all of your reaction, you have found truth. And it will set you free. How many times have you been women in the course of 10.5 million years? I would say more than 50%. How many times have you been young and beautiful? More than 50%. How many more times can you be that? More than 50%. When is the day that you take a chance and say, can I cultivate something other than physical wisdom? How about my mind? And not settle for anything other than that which matches my mind? The day that you do that is the day that you are awakened and nearer to God. The day you don't do that is when you are nearer to your femininity. Women are awesome beings. Don't you know that the whole strategy of men for all of this time to enslave you and to mark you and to cattle you and to use you and abuse you is because you had a power, because you were a law unto your own self? Don't you know that there was something to be afraid of don't you know that there was something to be afraid of there and to use? If you weren't anything that was threatening, you would never have been herded like cattle. Never would have been, nor would have religion set out to permanently destroy who you are. This business about Mary having children when she is a virgin, obviously a man of myth created that. You learn to be your own person, and don't you ever trade your body for security. Don't you ever do that. Don't you ever do that. You have done that many lifetimes. Don't you ever do that again. And don't you ever take someone to your bed that is less than you. Don't you ever do that. And you go about creating your enlightenment for the sake of you. Don't you know you are worthy to fall in love with? And don't you know that the long dry spell of walking the path, that sooner or later some beautiful entity is going to join you who is also there? Rare are masters. The reason that they are not rare is because of their sexuality. But that is why this is called the plane of demonstration. So is there that fear that as you have grown older, you wasted your youth on a cattleman's idea, or indeed that which is termed an idea that you threw away your youth and your volatility? You only have to have intercourse one time to understand what it is. After the hymen is broken, we should have wisdom. Look, every event I watch you, and I watch the games you play. You think that I miss anything? I don't miss anything. I know who is playing a game to get this person interested in them and that person interested in them. I know what you are doing. Don't you know? Of course you know. But did you ever stop and think that there was a knowingness that knew you were doing that? What about going after that knowingness? What can it offer you? Everything that you don't see in front of you. You are just fine without a man in your life. You are just fine, you really are. You are just as important and you are just as beautiful, and you are natural. You are actually supernatural. You are just as important without your breasts and your vagina and your face, because think about this, the face and the breasts and the vagina become only a small part of life. Think about birth to death, and what part of that are you really beautiful? How many years are you fertile and beautiful before you start to age? It is less than a third. What are you going to do with the rest of it? Are you going to live in regret and anger and unhappiness? What you have to do is start now and say, I am enough. I have always been enough. And you have to live for your ideal. You have to live for what gives you comfort and what gives you beauty and what gives you truth. You cannot rely on any man for truth. You have to rely on yourself. Furthermore, you cannot rely on any man to support you. You need to support yourself, because to do anything otherwise is to have affairs and liaisons for the sake of survival and not for meaningful existence. How many of you understand? So be it. The next part's called "The Focus Should Be What You Are as a Mind." Hallelujah. Hare Krishna. Namaste. Aloha.